Welcome back to the grim darkness of the 41st Millennium. I'm Inquisitor Temperance Pryce, keeper of the Inquisition's Black Library, and this is the third volume in a report on the Valentyne Heresy, an actual play podcast set in the Genesys Adaptation of Warhammer 40k's Dark Heresy RPG. This report features Game Master Tom McGee and players Ryan LaPlante as Inquisitor Lucius Valentyne, Tyler Hewitt as Attikus Vis, Laura Hamstra as Eli Sharpe, and Borovic as Morgan Rhalls. My report shows that the Inquisitorial Band have found their next destination. Eli survived his experience in the machine and is fully recovered. Attikus was troubled but held back during the treatment, and Valentyne found a need for a carapace in Inquisitorial storage and assigned Morgan to get it. What will happen now that Morgan requested Atticus's help but is being sent in with Eli instead? Find out next in this episode of the Valentyne Heresy.
From the Employee Handbook on Hearthold Holds. It is very important that every single item, no matter how exotic, heretical, or mundane, is properly accounted for. We're not running some kind of rumpus bin. We're running an important archive of inquisitorial findings, artifacts, weapons, tools of great power, and everything in between. The following 3,281 pages will give you a wonderful idea of exactly how to catalog everything. Now remember to read it very carefully, for missing items will not be tolerated. If you were to read this book, you would note that the spine is mysteriously uncracked. Morgan, you've been tasked with, a simple smash and grab. Old hat. You gotta rob the Inquisition in their giant fortress on a planet dedicated to the Inquisition to serve your new Inquisitor. Nice to have purpose, but maybe not this one. Valentyne has instructed you to take Eli and to raid the archive of Hearthold, the Inquisitorial Fortress here on Last Gleaming. The best way to think of this archive is not like a cool, sexy, well-organized thing, but rather the lost luggage at an airport, where things are put in like an evidence storage locker or something, where it's just like things are theoretically tagged and kind of just tucked away in the hopes that whoever left them will come back for them at some point. Honestly, you and Eli are kind of objects like that yourselves, just discarded by the Inquisition and left.
Excuse me.
Okay, Morgan, you are like this. Eli is just a wasted drunkard.
Yay!
That's more like it.
Yeah. Someone read my business card. This mandate has just come down. You are aware that the archive is on site. It's within Hearthold itself. It services all of the different branches of the Inquisition. Your target, however, belongs to the Ordos Hereticus. It is a large chunk of Tyranid carapace armor that has been. The best way to think of it visually for us is if you've gone to a museum and seen like part of a dinosaur skeleton, it's kind of that situation where it's part of the shell of kind of a Tyranid's a big old Nid's body, and if you can obtain this for Valentyne, he may have a chance at trading it to the fine folks at Ordos Xenos who might have the technology he needs to improve on Gideon Kotov's mad science. So you've just been tasked with this. Valentyne and Attikus, this will delay leaving the planet temporarily, but I think Valentyne, based on your priorities and the interest you have in making sure that this happens for you, I don't think that's a huge concern to you. And Attikus, of course, where Valentyne goes, you will follow anywhere that he tells you to. Aww. Like a Gilmore Girl.
It's just like that Gilmore Girl.
Yeah, just like it. Yeah. I really liked when they burned all the heretics in Stars Hollow. It was great. Sad to see Kurt die, but otherwise it was fine. We'll get to you guys in a second. But Morgan, given that you've been tasked with this, this is kind of your show to run.
Yep.
So you don't have a lot of information yet. The good news is because you've been welcomed into the retinue by Valentyne, who is recognized as an Inquisitor here at Hearthold. You do have access to the same sort of resources that a member of a retinue might have access to. So it's not like your days on the street where you're just kind of like making do with whatever you've got. You're empowered as you were briefly under Canehurst to kind of make a go of this. All you know is that the archive is somewhere on site and that there is missing luggage in it. How would you like to approach this, and how do you want to work with Eli on it?
Okay, here's my plan. My plan is I think the most prep work would be to kind of scan through the archive because Valentyne also mentioned like he wanted to grab other things possibly. But basically, I think the gist is she wants to scan through the archive and find if there's anything that was attached to Canehurst and if Canehurst's name is on it, because she could be like, Canehurst's rest of his retinue now works for Valentyne, so technically all that stuff should go to Valentyne because we work for him. And she's going to tell Eli, here's the list of stuff. Go tell them to send the stuff to Valentyne's ship. And she, by herself, is going to sneak in and switch the tags from the thing that he wants to one of Canehurst's things. Because to her, the best way to get it out is through the most proper channels with the least fiddling. She doesn't want to escape with an object. She wants it to be delivered to Valentyne's ship properly out of the Inquisition. So all she wants to do is sneak in and switch the tags. And I think while she's sending Eli to go get the thing, which she is not going to tell him, like that's what's going on. She's like, here's the list. Go get the shit on the list. She's going to leave Toby with Eli as a lookout so she can tell what's the timing and when he's at the front of the place, and then meanwhile sneak in. And she's going to put on all her clandestine gear so that she can be extra sneaky and sneak in there. And it's either going to be get in a door and pick the lock of the door, or find a vent or another room to get in, or sneak behind someone. Whatever happens to be easiest looking when doing that. So that's my plan. And in that way, because Valentyne told her, like, don't get caught, and if you get caught, I won't help you. She's done it in a bubble that Eli doesn't know what's going on, Valentyne doesn't know what's going on. So if she gets caught, she can make up her own shit about what's going on. So that's my plan.
That's a very good plan. I like it.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, well done. And to think, we recorded the previous episode mere moments ago. So however could you
Instant.
A week ago at most.
Baby Miles has gone to college.
Had a lot of time to sit on this plan.
It's great. I love it.
Great. Amazing. Okay. I love that. So just to recap, for my brain, and I think for kind of how we slot Eli in, then main steps of the plan mechanically, you need to figure out some way to scan the archive to determine what of Canehurst's remaining material is there.
Yeah, so Morgan and Eli will both do that.
Yeah, for sure. So you have to figure out kind of how best to like access the Dewey Decimal System, do a proper library scan. From there, Eli is going to be in charge of getting all of Canehurst's shit aboard the Marnie's song. As you send him, you're going to be rushing in to try and switch the tags without telling him. So you're also kind of in a weird race against time against Eli.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And I can definitely talk. We can talk that out, but I'll have some notes for Eli as to how to.
I would like to hear those notes. So, where would you like take Eli aside? Like, what's the equivalent of the dark conspiracy pub? Like that dark booth in the back. It's only for foul deeds, or like the betrayal garden in Game of Thrones. Like, where would you pull Eli to have this conversation?
I don't think it's anywhere specific. I think she's trying to be extra casual about it because she's not telling him half the plan. So it would be like if they're all hanging out on the ship discussing all of these things, she would just pull him aside in a hallway in the middle of everything,
Great. And sorry, on
ahead.
that note, Valentyne, would you have returned to the ship at this point, or would you still be hanging out in Hardhold?
He'd have returned to the ship. He's got to gear up and figure out what's on board. He's got to get the alcohol stowed. He's got a bunch of other shit that he's got to deal with. Also, with Treseus shifting over to the ship, that's his primary source of intel. So he's got some shit he wants to look up while Morgan's distracted.
Gotcha. Okay, great. And Attikus, I think we'll say then that you're kind of on like not quite guard duty, but kind of overwatch outside. Gideon Kotov is moving a lot of shit aboard, so I imagine that's something you want to keep an eye on.
Yep, if you weren't going to say it, I was. So yeah.
Okay, so we'll deal with that in a moment. Great. Okay, so Morgan, you pull Eli aside in the hallways of this unfamiliar ship. To fill him in on your brilliant scheme.
I would just be like, Eli, the Inquisitor has a task for you before we leave. And she'll like reach in his coat and pull out his data slate that's like she knows where he keeps it in his pocket and like hand it to him. Like, here, I emailed you these things, and be like, you need to go down to the Inquisitorial storage and you need to pick up all the things that Kanehurst has left there. Obviously, they belong to us now, so go down there, tell them what you want, take your time, tell them some war stories, and Toby will go with you and keep you company. All right?
Sounds kind of like you're trying to pawn me off for a while. What do you mean, go tell them war stories? What are you talking about? Talking like I go on and on about stuff.
Do this, exactly this, Eli. Go take your time, because
wait, take my all right, how much time? Clearly you don't want to tell me whatever the hell's going on here.
Take your time, and if you're going too fast, Toby will let you know. How about that?
And how's he gonna let me know?
Toby just goes, scream!
Yeah. Well, I'll take my time.
All right. Easy
Wait.
for you. I know you can do it.
Okay, so wait, I have to get the stuff?
Yes.
I have to find the stuff, and then get it.
Yes.
And get
then
it brought back
have
to the ship.
Yes, exactly. Have it delivered to the ship. And do not take no for an answer.
So, the things we're doing for this Valentyne go from scanning my brain in a deadly procedure to just menial chores.
Exactly. I mean, it is the Inquisition.
Life in the Inquisition.
Precisely. All right. Good man. Give chest pats on this man.
Yeah, get going. And Eli trudges off, muttering to himself. I don't go on and on. I don't just talk about war all the time. Talking about checking the data slate.
Toby follows. I love the idea that like Morgan's all about stealth and then has a bird that can only communicate with like large broken electronic screeches.
Deafening screeches.
That's why he's not going on the sneaking part. He's going on the scouting part. This is a separate thing.
Great. So, Morgan, what does your sneaking suit look like? We've seen you in kind of your civilian bartender gear, but you've got like a bunch of cool shit that we just haven't seen yet. What's the next costume? Just to make sure that when the new Happy Meal comes out, we have enough costumes for the Morgan Rhalls toys.
Yeah, so it actually is like her fancy outfit is part of the whole thing. She just has another jacket that goes on top that looks like a long duster that's kind of a reddish color. And then she also pulls on a holster that then connects to her belt that also has gear on it. But the jacket has like a hood, but it's a I can't say it, cameline coating jacket.
Chameleon. I remember having to say that.
Yeah, I know. I hate it.
Yeah.
But it's that so it can make her invisible. So it looks like a nice fancy jacket, but it has that coating on top of it.
Oh,
so that
I see. Yeah.
It looks like a normal, all of her outfit looks like normal attire, but kind of doubles as that sneaking in extra gear, basically.
Okay, brilliant. That's awesome. Also, just mechanically, that's much nicer than like, the Spider-Man problem of just like, I carry a duffel bag wherever I go. Okay, awesome. So having started that out, Morgan, you go in search of, now, I'm sorry, I guess I should ask, given that you and Eli have exited separately, Did you send him to go try and scan the archives for the Cainhurst gear, or are you going to do that?
Yeah, I think you're going to leave it to him, and hopefully he can find one thing, and then Toby is like, hello, I'm watching the things you find, and that will be the thing I steal. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So the two of you set off to do that. Meanwhile, back aboard Marnie's song, Valentyne, you've got Valentyne with you, and he is very happy to see kind of just how tricked out Marnie's song is. The ship is mostly repaired. Grimley's been doing some good work while you've been gone. Particularly after the kind of like possible kill order was lifted. When like, oh no, you are on the level. Cool. So that helps a little bit. But for Treseus, this is like this is a good posting because Billingberg, like, you know, he invested heavily in this vehicle. So Vanekoth is, eyes wide, just taking it all in as the two of you make your way aboard the ship.
Excellent. Valentyne will say to him, in these coming hours, I have a task for you, and then in the coming days, I have a greater task. But short term, while, I guess Morgan Rhalls isn't around. Well then, I have a task for you, friend. I know that she was involved with a quarantine world and a case that Cainhurst was involved in that involved the reason for that quarantine and perhaps a cult that was linked. I need to understand Morgan Rhalls' motivations, because I can only lead a team that is well motivated towards a correct direction, and I don't believe she will tell me the truth ever. So I need you to find said truth. I need to know Morgan Rhalls' origin story, as it were, as much as you can find, and any other psychological profiles or anything that could perhaps reveal some truth.
And he kind of like sucks air through his teeth for a moment and says, Inquisitor, I would love to get you this information. I love to find these facts for you. The problem is with Cainhurst not being here, not having his ship here. There's fewer access to his data files, to his logs, and not much is known about Morgan Rhalls nor Eli Sharpe. I looked into both of them for you back when you were trying to figure out where they were, and there isn't a lot. Now, it's not to say I won't try. I will look, but it would be if I were to say that it was done in triangles of purple, perhaps it would be a many triangle kind of task for me. I'm a visual learner that way. But
all right, then perhaps attempt that in, one could say, a more passive way. I have a different obsession for you that I need an incredible deep dive on. So our friend Gideon Kotov, who's joining the crew, has done a lot of work with brain scanning and reproducing the minds of people, and also, as he has admitted, inserting parts of himself into those minds. I would like you to rapidly become an expert in the template technology, so we could, let's say, spot if Gideon Kotov took a scan of some member of this crew, myself or others of my team, and identify if he had altered the personality to suit his own gains before we, I don't know, copy it into a couple of dozen agents spread throughout the Imperium.
Yeah, that would not be great. One of him is already a lot. Several of him is still too many. That is very concerning. So you are saying he uses his identity, is part of his own his personality, his brain, to fill in the gaps in his scans?
Yes, it would appear so. At least his own voice and some other belief structures that I believe he had mentioned inserting into other clients. If I was going to create someone to be a hero of the Imperium, perhaps with the Emperor's life on the line, I don't want Gideon Kotov in the fucking brain of the hero.
That is not great. That is the wrong driver for a good vehicle, He's stepping on the gas when he wants to brake. He is committing heresy left and right. Fuck that noise. Okay. So I have to investigate our new friend and see what her history is without any of the technology available. Dig into a dead Inquisitor's old file. No, I'm just. I know it's passive. I must log these things. Yes, and then I'm going to become an expert on strange heretical technologies that should not exist. Okay. Anything else I can do for you, Inquisitor? You mentioned there was the 2 big tasks. Is there another task I need to know, or is it good for now?
No, those are the 2. And if you don't think you'll have tremendous success looking into Morgan, because I do know that you've done that, I hoped additional information might help, but otherwise...
There's always... Look...
there's a chance, yes.
There's always a chance. I do not mean to say that it is beyond the capabilities of this adept for you, Inquisitor. I just merely want to set the expectation. Under promise over deliver is, I believe, the corporate term here is the Inquisition. They say that in a lot of our training. Otherwise, they just kill us, as you know. So let me look into this for you. I will see what I can find. But if I cannot find anything about Morgan, perhaps I can find something about this colony you mentioned. That action of that sort, unless it was done by the Adeptus, by Astartes themselves, is often a little bit easier to find,
Yeah,
as long as it is not locked away in the mind of some librarian somewhere, it is a lot easier to find, yes.
Yes, excellent. That's excellent. And I will tell you, when it comes to the brain scan search, I will be applying another devious mind when she becomes available.
Okay, that sounds good to me. I will leave you to that. Also, this is a very nice ship. Thank you so much for bringing me aboard this. I was getting very tired of that sad fortress. And just humming a little tune. He makes his way off, and you can see he's already his countenance has changed the minute he's no longer talking to you. He's just clearly folded in on himself to try and figure out sort of what he can do and what he can sort. Is there anything else you'd want to do sort of in the immediate sense here, Valentyne, or are you just going to kind of get settled and wait for answers?
He would confirm that his orders about alcohol being removed from the ship were carried out. Mm-hmm. He would make sure that Eli's weapons were all put in a locker that only Valentyne could open, and then he would settle himself. It's 2 promises made by an Inquisitor, and then he can settle and just do stuff. The other thing he would do is put together a report of everything he does not need from Billingberg's stuff, any extraneous parts of Billingberg's empire that are not Xenos related, because he needs those for negotiation. But any other low-level shit, it all goes to Davian Mutis. That guy did not blow us up, and Valentyne is I promised him a report. He's got to give him a bunch of people to go set on fire, so he's going to pick those carefully.
Okay, great. All right, so you sort of go to get some things done, trusting as you often do in your various cat's paws, and the hope that they can achieve what you yourself cannot. Meanwhile, Eli, you are setting out to achieve what they themselves cannot. You need to figure out what of Cainhurst's stuff might be in storage. You are feeling a little bit sore after Morgan's broad characterization of your reminiscences about the horrors of war, and given that in the 41st millennium there is only war. 31st millennium, whatever it is.
In the 41st.
41st? Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Because 20th Century Fox, we got there. So the 41st millennium, where there's only war, what the fuck else is there to talk about? You gotta tell people about the stories. They need to know. How would Eli go about trying to find Cainhurst's, for lack of a better term, forgotten luggage?
Well, the first thing Eli would do was look at his data slate and be like, all right, what the hell did Morgan find? What does she want me to do? It's where's this building? What do I have to go to? It's the basics first. Where do I need to go?
What a curmudgeon.
And he's doing this as he's literally, you have to realize as he's doing this, he's tromping around.
Everybody knows it. Cool. Okay. Well, so Morgan, let's go to you then for a dice roll
Okay.
to see what you were able to give Eli. Given your kind of the limited time you were able to put into pulling information together for him, but also being aware that he probably needs something to go on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say this is probably inclined to say a streetwise. Yeah, I think that's probably the best one we can go with
Okay.
here.
Can do that.
Because I think in this case, it's more so just knowing like what would the soft spots be.
Mm-hmm.
And
And giving him a map.
Yeah, and a map. I'm gonna make this just a difficulty of and sorry, to be clear, this is if you roll extraordinarily well on this, it's like here's the map and also here's like items I bet you can find.
Mm-hmm.
If it's poorer, it's here's the
More
map,
steps.
go
Yeah.
find some stuff. Like,
Right.
you know. Step 1, go here. Step 2, so I'm gonna say this is difficulty 3.
Okay.
You have access to Inquisition files, but unfortunately, you do not have classification status for Canehurst because you are part of the Valentyne retinue now.
Mm-hmm.
From story points, it's been 1.5 million years since we last recorded, so I'm going to go ahead and say 3 and 2 in your favor.
Cool.
You're a
No.
generous god.
Yeah,
well.
I'm gonna use one right off the top then.
Cool.
Use the story point because it's like this is the
Nice.
plan. This was her plan that she arranged. I feel like this is flowing into that. Like this is her pre-planning situation.
that.
Yeah.
You can have a boost for having just sort of broad access. You
Mhm.
didn't have to hack anything to get this information, which is
Right.
like a nice treat. Yeah, and I think most of the setback I would give you is actually characterized in that difficulty.
The
that I've said.
difficulty. Okay. All right. I will roll it. I got 6 successes. That's it.
Well, okie dokie then.
That's
Here's your
it.
map.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, being able to click into the system, Morgan, you were able to very easily kind of pull together a map of like exactly where to go, as well as accessing an old file you had from like kind of back when you were running errands for Canehurst.
Mhm.
You don't know exactly what was being delivered or shipped in and out, but you're able to pull up probably some like dates that could narrow the search for Eli. And basically, it's like Eli, as you look through these documents, it really is, you know, like a parent sending you to school with like the instructions for how to put together the various lunch pieces.
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't want the bread to get soggy, but I also don't trust you to make this sandwich. So it's all individually wrapped, but I'm going to tell you how it happens. So I think somewhat begrudgingly, you get incredibly clear instructions from Morgan.
Well, it's like, yeah,
totally-
Eli definitely like he had a moment where he looked around being like, no sign for the archive, but then like immediately looked to the data pad for directions from Morgan and was definitely kind of like, yeah, a little salty that like she's given him such clear instructions, just like, oh, goddamn previous member of the Navy. I've worked as an inquisitorial agent before, like
Love
both
it.
things.
I think it's also it's like bullet pointed and itemized of like, try
God.
this. If that doesn't work, try this. Like,
Ugh.
here you go.
Like a flow chart. Like, did that work? Yes. File go here. Did that work? No. Try this step.
Exactly.
That's funny.
The first instruction is just like, you're probably looking for a sign for the archive. There isn't one. It's like, right. So, Eli, you begrudgingly, like having checked the tablet, can see that the archive itself is held in the what would have been like the cold cellar beneath Hardhold. So one of the kind of massive converted facilities. Now that Hardhold has become kind of a hive in like, or is at least at the center of a hive, food can be brought in safely from outlying buildings. It doesn't need to be made in the basement anymore. So food itself is stored offsite. And as a result, they're able to turn the sort of massive larders of the old fortress to slightly more useful and protected purposes. That said, the catch with this is that it is deep inside the fortress. So there's kind of a checkpoint that isn't quite like a reception, because that's sort of the wrong term, but a security checkpoint for access. And you guys encountered this. Well, I'm sorry, you weren't with them, but Attikus and Valentyne encountered this on their way in, which is just like, because the various Ordos operations are on different levels, there's very much like, you see it in a lot of like the office towers downtown in Toronto, where it's like you need a key card to get into the elevator bay, and then you need a key card to access the floor you're going to, because there's lots of other floors that are important that aren't for you. So the good news for you though, Eli, is if there is one thing it's like weird military bureaucracy. Like this is not uncommon for ship life, for everything to be ordered in this way. So not entirely surprising, but somewhat frustrating.
But I used to hold the keys.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe one day you will again. What do you think Eli's approach for this is? Not like what you actually do as you walk up, but like what's he planning on doing before he arrives?
He's planning just on being very straightforward. I mean, there's nothing to hide here. This is completely above board. This is his former Inquisitor, and his former Inquisitor's dead. New Inquisitor, like this all is very like clear cut to him. So in his mind, there's really no reason why there should be any significant barriers to this, aside from like the stupid bureaucracy of Ordo Hereticus.
Yeah.
Is that what we were part of?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
That's why Valentyne didn't feel so good robbing them.
Right.
Like him robbing them, someone else robbing them later.
Yeah. So Eli definitely like has an understanding of how annoying it can be, but there's ways around it.
Okay, great.
And whatever Morgan's doing, who knows?
Who knows indeed. So Morgan, I would like to know what is your approach? So Eli, you can see kind of like, you get the 40K technologies and such that you'd get like someone has opened your file notification. But you send Eli off with his data slab. You switched into your sneaking gear. How are you planning on sneaking down there? You have access to the same information based on that role that Eli does. So you're aware of the sort of cold cellar, the elevator situation. How are you planning on getting down there?
Yeah, I think based on the map, if there's another way down, like if this cold cellar attached to another room at some point, or there's other locked areas, I think trying to get in to the storage area is as quickly and simply as possible, whether that's like, there's a hatch in the floor above, I will go down, or there's a locked door that is attached to some other place. Just trying to find whatever swiftest, easiest way in to the actual area where all the storage shit is what she's trying to do.
Okay, so the absolute easiest is to just straight shot down the elevator shaft. But shy of that, because it was a cold storage, it was attached to the old kitchens. So you can basically, like, there's not a stairwell that leads directly to it, but if you were to kind of go like fast stealth through a bunch of rooms, you could descend down that way. So let's go ahead with a stealth roll then to see how you do on that approach.
On my stealth roll, if I'm considered not able to be seen, I have the Camelio line coding. Never gonna get that right.
Hey, it's cool. I'm just glad I don't have to say it.
Yep. I also have a stummer, which makes there no sound, and it adds 1 boost. Unless no one can see me, then it adds 3 boost. So if no one can see me because I'm invisible because of my jacket, there's that.
Fuck yeah.
I like that you basically made my like Adam Jensen build from Deus Ex. Like, no one can hear me and I'm invisible. Fly. What's a battle?
Stacking buffs.
Yeah.
I'm trying to live here. This is just all it is.
Trying to survive.
Look, if this show has taught me anything, it's that PCs never die.
Yeah,
I
Lyric
listened
had
to
a
the first
chameleon
half
line
of season
cloak.
1. Okay, so Del, you're absolutely unseen for this. That's totally
Cool.
fair because you're
And then-
kind of like approaching this in your own
Yep.
way. So you can just take all those fucking dice.
Cool.
I'm gonna make this a difficulty of 4 because of this the amount of rooms you need to get through and the
Yep.
speed at which you're trying to get through them.
That's fair. Do I want to eat through all of our dice or not? That's the question.
I mean, you did just say you want to live.
I mean, Valentyne sent you off on your own, so he doesn't have a say in what dice you use. He's not
I'm
there.
doing it.
Eli is
taking the
going
dice.
to,
I made it safe
encounter
for
no
everybody else.
resistance.
Is my attempt. All right, so I'm going to use a story point then. Would you like to do that too, Tom?
What? No?
I'm not. No,
No?
I'm just gonna
All
hoard
right.
story dice.
All
like
right.
a fucking dice dragon.
Okay, so here we go.
Okay, yes.
And this gives me 3 boost, and also the coat gives 2 auto advantage. So that's where we're going with this.
Yeah.
I will roll the dice. The end result: 5 successes, 6 advantages.
Oh,
I am
my
sneak.
God.
I am the knight.
How many dice did you roll?
I rolled 2 green, 3 yellow, 3 boost, 2 auto advantage versus
Fuck.
4. And just as I also have a clip drop harness and a grapnel in line, so if she finds that place that she could drop down, just like clip drop, I am in the.
Well, I
Storage
think
bin.
with that roll,
God,
we can
she's
just
so
say that
cool.
yes. Yes.
Fast roping down elevator shafts and shit.
I feel like you're basically a Games Done Quick where someone just clips through the edge of a map and then just flies
Yes.
the finale. Yeah. I
This is
think
my strat, okay? You just have all the dice and you try real hard.
yeah, Del, you Morgan is just like stealth character at the height of their powers in a movie or video game, just full on. Every time someone walks through a room, you're dropping behind cover, you're moving past them. You hear the Castilian, or sorry, not the Castilian. I'm reading a lot of pirate books right now, so that's just floating around in my head. Lyriel Asher complaining to some of the servants, and again, like at this
Nice.
point, he is a servant.
Yeah.
There's just this weird like the boy king complaining to the other servants, but like still pretending that he's got status, and they're like, "We hate you." So he's just complaining about like all the disruptions and how unfair it is, and how back in Grandmama's day, and like you just whisk past. Whining creates amazing sound cover,
That's true.
and then eventually, there's like probably like a dumbwaiter situation that leads down to the storage. And you just grapnel fast line, zip down that, and you drop into a large, messy room. And again, like I mentioned just right off the top, the sort of evidence locker vibe, where it's a lot of like wireframe, shelving and other things. Very much kind of an industrial attempt at like, okay, we just need maximum space down here. You can certainly see the old shelves. It's almost like if you imagine like a catacomb. So there's, things have been carved into the sort of the bedrock and stone for the sort of original purposes of the fortress. And those are full of fucking luggage too. But they've added more and more stuff to a point where it is just an overcrowded space. Dropping down, Morgan, you see there are several servitors who are just kind of like going up and down the rows. They're not really patrolling, but you can see just kind of like long, almost receipt paper length scrolls just trailing off various machines on them as they're desperately cataloging and recataloging everything. These sort of receipt scrolls are tangled. It seems like these servitors have just been at this forever and likely will be at it forever. And as a result, in cinematically, we often have like mist coming up to the floor. In this case, it's just like tangled receipts of kind of where everything is and what it is. And above it all, you can just hear a voice saying like everything in its place, and just kind of like banging almost like a metronome style rhythm. And sort of at distance, you can see there's a small kind of front admin desk behind which there is just like a rail thin, wildly overdressed guy who looks a little bit like DJ Quails, but if he was like in his like 60s. So just kind of like largish nose, kind of a triangular head, mop of hair, and just wearing like thick, heavy robes, small mark of office sort of pinned to his shirt, which is like 3 sizes too large. So it's kind of like he's sitting under a blanket. And he's just like feet up on the desk, just tapping away, letting these servitors work. His feet up on a massive tome with an uncracked spine. You get a lay of the land. You've not heard from Toby yet,
Okay.
but you managed to get down here before Eli, so you got that going for you at the very least.
Pretty good.
Meanwhile, Eli, you are approaching the checkpoint that leads to the central elevator. This central elevator is large enough that it won't take you, like, it's not like it just lowers into a weird cold cellar, but it'll get you down far enough, and then there'll likely be another checkpoint, and you can go from there. Attending the checkpoint, there are a number of sort of inquisitorial stormtroopers standing at the ready, as you'd expect, but there's also a couple of irregulars. This is clearly a spot that is important enough that Graves has assigned the sort of members probably of his wide retinue to guard it. So there's one lady who is just like think like Scully and Hitchcock type from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but slightly scarier. So just kind of like a block of a head, just kind of like a massive barrel torso. And just holding a massive axe that is it looks like at one point it was a power axe, but the mechanics have broken down, so now it's still got that like cool look. It might have been wielded by a Marine at some point, but the mechanisms are busted. It no longer has the kind of trembling, shimmering blade. It's still a vicious weapon, and it still looks badass, but clearly kind of a secondhand tool. And decked out in kind of similar, like wearing kind of the livery of one of the Inquisitorial Stormtroopers, but almost like a bib, because in no way does that fit her. Like big, like bare arms, hold the axe, and then kind of like a bib apron of like a Stormtrooper outfit, just to kind of signal that she's with them. Her companion is a type that you've seen at the bar a lot, but also that you would recognize as trouble aboard the ship from kind of your experience. Just like a hotshot gunslinger. She's got kind of the Han Solo side holster that's just kind of casually slung out the side of her hip. Got a rifle slung over her back. Wearing gauntlets, a battered but still highly functional helmet. And kind of some light carapace armor that's definitely seen combat. Unlike a lot of the braggarts at your bar, this lady clearly knows her shit, but for whatever reason is a member of the retinue. They don't, move to confront you or anything. The stormtroopers step forward, as well as an administrator who kind of comes to meet you. But you can tell they're there in case things go bad, whether that's people coming down or people coming up or anything else. They're just there to make sure that stormtroopers don't get, chewed up by whatever comes.
Yep.
So the administrator comes out, just a bald, incredibly average-looking man with one massive rectangular glass eye, which really just you could tell someone was trying something and it didn't quite work. So almost
rectangular. Wow.
Yeah, so almost like having a screen for an eye. Like the inquisitorial eye tattooed directly in the middle of his forehead, and just kind of like the faintest hint of a goatee. He steps forward and says, "Hello, my name is Oathful Dyer. I understand from the way you are approaching that you likely would like to ride the elevator. May I ask what your business is?"
Oh, indeed. And Eli very respectfully, he kind of straightens up, he knows how to fucking do this, and makes the sign of the Aquila and says, "Greetings, fellow Ordo, brethren, sister, people, folk. Yeah, gotta get in there. I'm on a mission from my Inquisitor. Yeah, you know that Valentyne who's been over here. Yeah, I gotta get all the old stuff from my old Inquisitor. He's dead now."
Sorry, you'll have to speak up. I'm a little bit hard of hearing. You're an And then his like square eye goes blindingly white. And he says,
"This guy okay?"
"Oh, my apologies. I didn't recognize you. Of course, Inquisitor, you're here for your old things. We've been expecting you, Lord Andronicus. Please, this way, out. And he like does the little hand scurry thing at the stormtroopers. And like the two, like the brute with the axe and the sharpshooter, both like immediately kind of snap to attention and bow. And he says, please, this way, we'll get you everything you need. Come along, children, we have an Inquisitor to see too." And they pile onto the elevator with you, and
yeah, Eli has there's like a moment of hesitation, just giving a kind of like a and then going along with it, because whatever. This guy has obviously had a stroke or something with the white light. Like this guy's unwell, so let's just get on with this.
With that, the elevator trembles and moves, and he just says, "We were so worried when you were late that you weren't coming, but don't worry, we'll get you everything you need, Inquisitor." And his eye glows like a warm pink of kind of like just joy, and that, my friend, is how Eli Sharpe became the Accidental Inquisitor. Clip of a Vox recording. Elevator bays. Hearthold. "No, we don't know what he looks like, but he's extraordinarily late, which is concerning. Oh dear, and he has so much luggage to pick up. Where are you, Lord Andronicus? Come soon." Attikus, you're sitting outside Marnie's song, and you're having a bad day. You might be part of a heresy.
Yeah.
You watched some weird alien technology shit happen. You've seen Valentyne bend the rules a bunch. There is a Beastman doctor who passed you some time ago and has not returned, which means he is just making himself at home somewhere on the ship, which means now there's a Beastman that you hang out with, you guess. And the icing on the cake is watching Gideon Kotov overseeing the kind of like slow process of moving his mad science aboard. So he's got like a bunch of work people just like hoisting heavy stuff for him. And he's very much doing like the annoying, like, in movies when like an artist is trying to like set up an exhibit or something, and it's just like yelling at everyone to move things in a very specific place. Then, his goggles keep popping out and he keeps clicking them back in. But everything is very delicate. Everything must be moved quickly. Everything must be put in its proper place. How's Attikus feeling about all this? And B, what would you be keeping an eye out for?
Heresy. Attikus, Attikus, I think, is lamenting that the Inquisition is less direct than he had hoped it would be. It requires a finesse that does not come naturally to him. And so I think he's feeling a little, I think he's feeling a little too small for the job, so to speak. You know, his skill set does not necessarily fit the requirements for being in the Inquisition. He's also thankful that he's been given very clear instructions by Valentyne that he can follow his old sort of, not his adage per se, but just the idea that he's taken comfort in before is that if everyone just does their job, we're all going to get through this just fine. I'm going to do my job, and the guy in the trench beside me is going to do his, and the soldier beside him, and so on and so forth. And so Attikus has a job to do, and he's going to do it to the best of his ability. And that's kind of what he takes solace in that he's got a job and he's going to do it as best he can. And so he is watching Gideon like a hawk. You say he's sitting, he is not sitting. He is standing. He is ready to pounce should anything untoward happen. Excellent. So he's watching Gideon watch the equipment getting loaded onto Marnie's song.
Great. So as you're doing that, I think the feeling the tension in your body as this happens. There's something particularly hellish for kind of a man of action to not be able to take action.
I just wish he'd do something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Please give me an excuse.
Unfortunately, he's like a good mad scientist. He is the mechanicus part of his training is really coming through in spades as he makes sure everything is delivered. It's in thinking about this and in trying to kind of rely on that adage that your mind kind of wanders slightly, so it seems, to one of the many hymns that I think you've taken comfort in that you heard kind of sung around the barracks. Like there's those certain kind of familiar, comfortable. In war, there's all sorts of things that kind of can provide this, but I think particularly given the heavy theology of the 40K universe, particularly Imperium, like, you're not walking around putting Aquillas on everything like Thaddeus, but you do love some good, pure, shining light of the Emperor nonsense. You haven't had that in a while. What do you think the name of this hymn is? It's not like, it doesn't need to be like a tremendously, it's not like the hymn of hymns. It's just, one that speaks to you and that is a comfort.
This one is called it's a battle hymn. It's called Boots on the Ground, Blood in the Dirt.
Great. So you hear so I'm just writing that down. You hear, you can almost, as you fall into that kind of almost hypnotic rhythm of the boots, like moving efficiently things in. And again, like the work people, the crafts people, everyone here is under the Inquisition's thumb. So, it's a little bit like, I imagine anywhere where there's diplomats, where it's just like everyone there is just operating a slightly different level because of the sort of heightened nature of what they're doing. I don't think, from the way you've described the vigilance that Attikus is engaging in, that you get lulled into anything, but there is something just to that kind of rhythmic hit of boots, and almost unbidden the song enters your head, and it's after the second verse is interrupted by a swear word that you realize that this hymn isn't actually in your head. Someone is singing this hymn nearby. as Gideon actually takes a break to go back down into his pit, because they're like having to haul everything up from the well. So like every so often he has to like go back down there, and he's got guards on him. So when he leaves, like, you know, he still has to, you know, do a bunch of shit. Like there's a lot going on. He can't just go use the bathroom when he wants to.
I like the care you're taking to explain, like, it's okay for you to step away from Gideon Attikus for this other thing I'm introducing.
We've been playing this game long enough. You know, just want to avoid any Banshee is too far away scenarios as we encountered in Dungeons and Dragons. But also realistically, this was a man who was chained up in a well, so I feel like the Inquisition would be like, it's cool, someone else is taking you. Just go have fun, you crazy kids. So you know, he is under guard, who kind of follow him back. Attikus, you have a moment to yourself where you don't have to look at Gideon because he's not committing any heresies right now. What do you do?
Who is singing that song?
Oh, no one of import. Like, it's
okay. Then I'll just go.
You fly away. You make your way around the side of Marnie's song, and again, it is the landing pad.
Yeah.
There are a number of vehicles being serviced up here, as well as a lot of just kind of random people. They aren't certainly not as left behind as the Redacted or the Loyalists, but new people arriving and, you know, coming and going every day, and some hopefuls who have yet to be ignored by the various Inquisitors on staff, kind of almost arrive by bus, if you're going to sort of imagine like those big kind of probably like a rogue traders running these sorts of things, just like a big old transport. You can buy your way, and it's kind of like if you're in this sector and you're looking for work, you come here, you arrive at Hearthold, you get sorted, and if no one wants you, you get ejected out into the world if you have at least some clout. And it's amongst these sort of hopefuls of some repute, some reputation. That's the same fucking word. You see a sort of a stern looking man. You know, his features look very chiseled, almost wind worn. He's got like just a bit of that like Ed Harris vibe of just kind of like someone chiseled this man out of stone, and then the stone came to life, and no one thought to tell him, so he's just living his life. Of particular note, he's shirtless. He's got he's got a chain around his neck, and a tattered and worn leather-bound book hangs from it. But otherwise, he's naked to the waist, tanned skin, just as chiseled as his face. He's in incredible shape, despite, you know, having gray, buzzed, close hair. He's from sort of the waist down, it almost looks like he's got overalls that he's essentially permanently belted off. So it's not like he's tied them casually like a worker. He is, you know, basically like got a series of belts kind of keeping them in, almost like a Final Fantasy number of thick belts.
Okay.
Sort of locked in, and hanging from a sort of a quick access holster. There's just a spectacularly ornate shotgun. This thing is ancient, and I think to your eye, as with any trained soldier in Warhammer, like the old stuff's the good stuff, and this thing is like a BioShock Infinite's worth of gold gilt, like very ornate, clearly an ancient weapon that has been very, very well cared for. This somewhat imposing man is currently losing a fight with his boot. He is digging around in there, kind of absently muttering this hymn, and then every so often swearing as he pulls like more debris out. You can see that like the boot is worn through, so he's clearly just been picking up debris as he walks around, and he's just kind of shaking it out. And it's a real undignified. It's a classic like dignified person doing an undignified thing situation, but he seems to be kind of ignored by those around him. But knowing that hymn, and I think having been around people who know it, you actually recognize this guy, not from descriptions you've heard. It is the author of this hymn. His name, he's known to you as Father Marcellus.
Father Marcellus?
Yeah. He was a local favorite in your division before you got rudely booted off onto the Skull Kickers. And as a result, like just a familiar enough name in the same way, a lot of the troops that you came up with were like, this guy gets it. Like, certainly not the most popular hymnals. A lot of the older ones kind of take that, but in terms of like a new cool thing that speaks to the hip cool hymns, there's just something about the inherent understanding of exactly that sentiment that you had about just doing your job and kind of getting through war, that this guy seemed to capture. So you see him finally he breaks the hymn, and just kind of mutters like, "Accursed boot, you continue to make my days full of pain and uncomfort. Damn you! From the depths of the Emperor's soul, I damn thee, boot." And then he begrudgingly sticks it back on, and kind of gets up and begins to walk away.
Marcellus?
And he stops and kind of turns with a look that's equal parts suspicion and intrigue.
Father Marcellus?
Yes.
It is
I.
you.
And he like drops his hand to the shotgun and just says, "Have you been sent by those bastards, the Lords of Terror?"
What? No, it's me. It's Attikus. I'm Attikus Vis. I'm with the Inquisition now.
And
I'm a colonel.
He kind of like narrows his eyes, and then he sees the power fist, and his eyes kind of go wide. He says, "Ah, yes. I seem to recall you were not a colonel when our paths crossed previously."
No. Field promotion, mate.
"Ah. Well, then it would seem our fates have been inverted. For I've been demoted from the ecclesiarchy to this sad state." And he like gestures broadly, but his eyes dart briefly to that boot. Like this is just a situation that he can't quite get around. But he says, I do hope your battalion, well, and he kind of like looks around and doesn't see anyone else, says, ended well at the very least. Perhaps my words were of some comfort."
Well, they certainly were to me, Father. What happened? What happened to you?
And just kind of like a shadow crosses his features, and he says, "Vis, if I remember correctly, you count yourselves amongst the faithful."
Indeed I do, sir.
"It is hard for a man of faith, amidst all the underhanded dealings of the politicians. The Emperor in his glory would never allow it were he not so concerned with holding back the very darkness that threatens our souls. So instead, these small men and their small games run around and interfere with his true intent and the glory of the god himself. It is these small men and their minions who grew tired of me preaching the proper word, and thus I have been exiled to this sad state." And he kind of like pats his gun and says, "Where I and the Emperor's might may perhaps find a good end."
Oh, well, I would say it was the Emperor's will, as it is with all things, that you should be here while I am here, for us to meet again.
I suppose
what
that's
is it?
true.
What is it that you're up to? Looking for a fitting end. What is that? What are you doing?
I have grown weary of the ways of the politicking and the betrayals, and it seemed to me that perhaps the last pure avenue for me was to find an Inquisitor pure of purpose who I could join up with and hopefully die by their side, though in my time here, and he like glares, just full glower around the landing pad. Says, I've been disappointed to discover that the Inquisition is just as corrupt and political as the very institutions I fled. They all have their games. They claim to serve the Emperor, but they serve only themselves. And thus I am... And he just kind of gestures around and says, at loose ends, as it were. My boots are not on the ground, though I desire them to be. And perhaps one day my blood will be in the dirt, if he wills it.
Oh, well, I agree. The Inquisition does seem to require some degree of guile that I haven't quite figured out yet. But if you're looking for an Inquisitor who's true to the Emperor and serves him faithfully, I happen to know one.
And he kind of smiles, and it's like that like top lip doesn't move kind of smile, but there's definitely some mirth in it. And he nods and he says, I'm beginning to think, Colonel Vis, that you truly do speak the truth about this being the Emperor's will. And then he leans in a little bit more conspiratorially. He says, but I am concerned. You've mentioned that you have also found the Inquisition to be a somewhat difficult thing to navigate. Is that because of this Inquisitor you wish to introduce me to?
No, it's more of a lifetime of punching and killing is only so useful when sometimes you have to, inquire in the Inquisition.
Colonel, I understand you all too well. I've spoken with two voices in my life. One speaks the truth of the Emperor's will in hymns. The other speaks his rage and retribution with bullets. And he pats his shotgun. He says, I dare say I have found it rather difficult finding my way in this world when neither voice falls upon the ears that must hear it. But it would seem you may have an avenue for me, and if you will do an old man the favor of introducing him to this Inquisitor, I will throw myself upon his mercy, and if the Emperor wills it, serve him. Who knows? Perhaps I may find my glorious end at your side rather than amongst this dreck. And he spits on the deck.
Well, Emperor willing. I should say, though, that, we're on a pretty serious mission, and there will be a vetting process. And, my Inquisitor, what he says goes. I have orders to follow. And so he's probably going to ask you about these little men who put you in this position. I would also like to know a little more about that.
So Father Marcellus thinks about this for a moment and just sort of nods and says to you, Attikus, I can tell that you are a man of faith, as you say, and if you think that the path this Inquisitor walks is the righteous one, then I will do whatever I must in order to walk it with him, and who knows, perhaps I will find a glorious end at your side. Either way, I can bring my voice, and he taps his gun, he's like, and his to the cause. If he is as worthy as you say, who knows, perhaps I'll even write to him about him. But first I must prove myself. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate this more than you can know.
Well, think nothing of it. It'll be worth it to have you on board the ship should your audition go well.
Truly, I shall seek to be cast in this never-ending chorus of glorious violence alongside you. Let us go. And he kind of looks a little bit bashful and says, do you have any spare boots? Meanwhile, Morgan, you've dropped in. You are looking at kind of a bunch of servitors moving around within the sort of baggage claim area of the cold storage. You can see that there's an administrator kind of at the far end of the room. Again, we're thinking just like a big rectangular space, a little bit like a catacomb. It's chilly down here, but you're wearing a coat, so it doesn't matter. Unfortunately, though, there's a slight hitch in your plan, which is Eli has been mistaken for an Inquisitor and is now seemingly on his way down. So you beat him down here. And I think it's important to note that kind of Eli's conversation and the conversation we'll have when we next cut to him were likely occurring as you were like making your way through the rooms. Does this change anything for you?
No, it's the thing she needs to do is find the carapace that Valentyne wants and get like the tag off of that and swap it with another tag. But if Eli is coming down, he's going to be Inquisitor guy or get something else pulled. It's like Toby is there to see exactly what is going to get pulled, and that's what we will swap. Like whatever it happens to be, that's fine. So
Gotcha.
It's sticking on it. It's obviously getting a little complicated, but the basic of the plan is still there, and Eli can deal with whatever is going on over there. So that's not her fault.
Let's figure out what's going on over there then. Eli, congratulations. You're kind of an Inquisitor, not really. You are flanked on either side by, again, a sort of a massive goon holding a depowered power axe, a sharpshooter, and a sort of a wizened attendant who is Oathful Dyer, who is struggling to hear you and is clearly doing that kind of classic elderly person who's hard of hearing, but is also like very functional and good at their job thing, where he's just filling in the details as best he can. The challenge being that Eli, you are not great at providing details, so there's just a lot of kind of like between the two of you, there's just enough non-communication happening that this is rapidly kind of spiraling out of control. He sort of speaks over his shoulder to you as this elevator descends, and he just says, Lord Andronicus, we were very worried when you did not arrive. You forgive this impertinence, but you are a fortnight late. Did you tell us what befell you?
Eli's he's kind of second guessing the tactic he took here and just kind of jumping on the Inquisitor. Like, this guy might be like not fully with it, but the people around, like the stormtroopers might be. So Eli's going to try one more time and say loudly, like, all right, to be clear, I am here representing Inquisitor Valentyne. My old Inquisitor Canehurst died. Gotta get stuff from Canehurst. Bring back to new Inquisitor Valentyne. I don't understand.
Inquisitor, what you choose to do with your property is up to you. Whether you deliver it to your new friend Valentyne, or whether, and I must say, it does an old man's heart glad to hear that you are showing such respect to your dead friend Inquisitor Canehurst. May we all find someone who takes care of our belongings so well after we pass.
And Eli looks to Hitchcock and Scully folks. And like, are they giving any indication that they think something's up? Like, what are they looking like?
No, I mean, here's the thing with Inquisitors. They're generally kind of a wacky bunch. So you're getting the sense you're getting, and honestly, it's a sense that, Eli, if you were in their shoes, you would probably be doing as well, which is like, if the captain is kind of off their rocker, you just kind of let that happen. They're the captain. So they're just kind of politely staying out of it. But no, they're not looking at you like, holy shit, you're clearly not an Inquisitor.
Yeah, okay.
But also, again, there's just enough lack of communication between both of you that even though you're for us who know the context, being very clear about what you're trying to say.
Yeah, and I think
is just enough for them to be like, yeah.
And I will do kind of a little like aside to the stormtroopers, and like, I'm being very straightforward. I'm within the legal procedures here. You understand that, right?
And just as one, they're like, yes, my lord.
Grumble, grumble, grumble.
And Oathful Dire just nods as you grumble and says, of course, probably too painful a thing to recount. The business of the Inquisition is always exciting, but often leaves a mark, I fear. And you get the sense he might be a bit of a fanboy, which doesn't really come as a huge surprise given that he is the elevator guy at an Inquisition fortress. You would have to kind of like it to want to be here. The elevator comes to a stop in the sort of at the where would probably be like a dining space level, and he says, forgiveness, Lord Inquisitor, we'll have to proceed on foot from here, but it is not far, particularly if no one knows what one is doing. As a younger man, I managed to get down here very quickly. There's if you have a grapnel, you can fast rope down some amazing spaces. It's very good. Of course, I can't do that now, but Hitchcock and Scully here probably could. And like Hitchcock, the first time you've seen her move, and it's like the Batman.
Are they actually called Hitchcock?
They are now. I'm not going to rename them. So like in a very much like Keaton Batman, she just like shifts her whole torso in a shaking of head gesture. And the gunslinger just like flips their las pistol around a couple times and holsters it. You're not sure who they're trying to impress, but hopefully not you, because you are not.
Nah.
No. So you make your way into a grand dining hall, and it is there's still all the trappings of what was once a fine room, but much like many of the rooms you've been in today and yesterday, I guess, because it's been about a day and a half, it's now just like it's clearly a thoroughfare. So like the massive table has been kind of like pushed up against a wall. All the rugs have kind of been squeaked up under it. And work lights have been installed, and there's almost like a worn footpath down into the archives. That said, there are some fine vintages that you can eyeball that are in kind of nearby racks of unopened wines that have a thick layer of dust and neglect upon them, but they do catch your eye.
Eli makes mental note of that for the way back. And
Toby
then remembers that Morgan said to take my time. So Eli was going to be good and then realized, the mission is to delay. So, goddamn Tom. So Eli says, Oathful, Dire, what, I don't know what name you prefer. Oathful Dire. Any chance, this is, unclaimed? And he points to kind of gestures over.
And
spirits.
Oathful's large rectangular eye, like immediately there's just kind of like a blast of small pixelated, like small dots almost as he does the old like 80s computer scan thing. And he says, well, technically these do all belong to the Inquisition. Perhaps they wouldn't notice if a bottle were to go missing to, of course, a Lord Inquisitor, but it would be easier if you were giving a report of your expeditions and adventures to a faithful servant of the Inquisition. Well, then that wouldn't be a bottle wasted at all. It would merely be a a lubricant to the memory, as it were. So perhaps if you could tell me of your delay over a bottle of wine, I could make my report and you could enjoy the vintage, and that would all be fine, right? And he like turns to Hitchcock and Skelly, who are both just stone-faced. But it does kind of ring true. You probably need to give him something.
I mean, Eli hasn't had a drink in a while, but he's also not prepared to lie outright to these people. Like, he's prepared to lie outright to Oathful Dyer, but not with the stormtroopers present. Okay. It's just...
So, Laura, let's make this a roll.
He feels
then.
On thin ice.
Yeah,
you know,
no, I understand.
As it is.
So, a couple of things we can do here. One is try and get rid of the honor guard. So you're just dealing with Oathful Dyer. Or two is to figure out how to delay Oathful Dyer without having to lie. Which of those two do you think Eli would?
The second one.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
So this seems to me to be you're trying to avoid lying.
Yep.
But also stall him.
I mean, at the same time, Toby hasn't given me any indication that I need to slow down. So there's not really high stakes.
Yeah. Laura, I'm thinking maybe we go with negotiation on this one.
Sure.
Because it's kind of like a stalling tactic, but not a lie. Unless you want to make an argument for something else. I would take, because I think it
makes sense.
Yeah. So let's go with negotiation.
Eli has no other skills that would work.
No, I'm going to give this a difficulty of 3, largely because Oathful Dyer has an agenda here. He wants to hear a cool story about his cool Inquisitor buds. You get the sense this is what he does every time someone takes the elevator. He's got to ask them all questions. I will give you a boost for being actually really good at talking around things like this. I will give you a setback for the trying to not lie to everyone else in the room. Story point situation is currently 1 and 4. I'm going to spend a story point on this one because Oathful really wants that fucking story. He's had a fortnight to consider what could have happened to you. I think that's about it for me. Anyone else want to add anything onto that die pool? All right, great.
I guess, if anything, could be a tiny boost because Eli looks like an Inquisitor because he has a giant fucking eagle with him.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd buy that.
Really funny.
That's very good.
It's not a civilian eagle.
That's true.
Okay. Let's just do it. 2 successes, 1 threat.
Okay. So, Eli, I think in your kind of awkward talking around, not wanting to tell him the story, that really just whets his appetite more. So he just goes and like opens the bottle, blows the dust off it, opens the bottle, and pours you a glass. And kind of an fascinating. No, of course, I understand you couldn't possibly tell me anything about this, nothing at all. But I mean, perhaps a sip couldn't hurt, right? And he hands you the drink. At which point, Morgan, you arrive in the cold cellar as we described. So now our timelines have kind of synced up. Eli, you manage to evade enough of his questions that he's still like satisfied and actually again kind of more into it that like it's like a secret mission. However, we'll say the threat is he suddenly realizes the time and says oh dear, I mean, Lord Inquisitor, as much as I've enjoyed this conversation, there are others that require my services, and frankly, I do worry a little bit about the quality and freshness of the item you requested, given how late you were to pick it up. So we should probably make haste.
To be clear, I'm picking up Inquisitor the late Inquisitor Kanehurst's belongings.
Yes, of course. In addition to the package.
Don't want the package. To be clear, that can just hang out here for a little while longer.
He has been proving rather troublesome, though. Are you certain? It has been difficult to figure out exactly what to feed a Gretchen, but we've been doing our best. Morgan, it's great that you have Toby. It's bad that you have Toby sometimes, because sometimes it pumps information like this through into your ears.
Yep.
So Eli's in over his head. There is a
Oh, is that what that sound told you?
There is clearly some weird inquisitorial hijinks afoot down here, but also more importantly, the cleanness of this is falling apart a little bit. Is there any instruction you'd be sending him?
No, he's on his own. Look, this step comes first. We do the thing for Valentyne, then we figure out how to deal with the Eli shit if that shit is ongoing. This is step 1, step 2. So
excellent. All right. Eli, you arrive in the sort of archive space, and Oathful is now very concerned. He's also just like a little bit drunk. You get the sense he doesn't have wine very often, so like, he's just feeling it a little bit. His screen keeps flickering, and he just says, but as you know, it was a bit of a cause for concern when we learned that the Xeno sample would be coming through Hearthold, and we've done our best to keep it fresh for you, but it is rather a drain on resources, you must understand. So I implore you, it's nice that you're doing this favor for your friends, but you simply must take this small green bastard off our hands.
Oh, okay.
Pardon my low Gothic.
Indeed. Here's the thing. Let's get Kanehurst stuff moving along out of here first.
Okay.
Because that's going to be easy. I don't want to bring a Gretchen thing with me to then walk through here and get all of Kanehurst stuff. That just seems like a security hazard.
Hitchcock and Scully are nodding. They're that does seem like a hazard. You get the sense no one's super happy about a tiny Xenos thing stuffed in a box down here.
Also, Eli's just like fought so many different like Xenos species that it's like, who the fuck cares about its one stupid little grot? Like,
it is very funny. Yeah, it's like everyone here is like going
like,
out
just
their way.
kill it.
No, we must keep it alive.
Line.
It's special and important. And you're like, I wiped these off my shoe. Okay, great. So Oathful finally relents and he says, fine. Well, what do you need from the late Inquisitor Kanehurst? Do you have an item number?
Item number. Let's see. And Eli pulls out his data slate and he's like, well, I've got a list of what I need. Do we have some way to correlate this list with the item numbers? I mean, I got approximate dates that they were sent here. And
Oathful Dyer just slowly looks, and kind of the camera follows him as he just stares at these like reams and reams of scrolls that just kind of tangle the ground. And slowly he looks kind of into the distance and says, Inquisitor, I do perhaps have a solution for us here, but, well, I'm afraid he's a bit of a bore, and he is not great at helping things move quickly like I am. And he gestures
Eli just says, not a problem.
Gestures to the sound of tapping. And he says, we can go speak to the clerk about your date ranges and perhaps find what you need.
Fine, let's Where's this clerk?
So the two of you wade through this kind of endless stream of receipts to arrive to the thin man with his feet up, who immediately panics because no one really comes down here all that often. And when they do, there's normally more notice. So quickly straightens himself up. And Otheldyre just says, Julius, dear Julius, this is my lord Andronicus. He has need of your particular talents. And Julius just says, wait a second. Did you say Inquisitor Andronicus?
Eli's shaking his head.
And Julius just kind of also shakes his head and says, yeah, who the fuck are you?
Hi, Eli Sharpe, here representing Inquisitor Valentyne. As I've stated multiple times, my former Inquisitor, Inquisitor Canehurst, is dead. I'm here to collect the things that he's left and give them to my current Inquisitor, Inquisitor Lucius Valentyne. That is who I am. That's what I'm here to do.
And
Eli like also like looks back to the stormtroopers, like kind of like right, like this is what I've been saying.
At this point, one of them, just one in the back, just does a full like hands up in the air, like fucking whatever, man. Like sure. You can only do that because he's in the back. And Otheldyre says, yes, as you can hear, Lord Inquisitor Andronicus needs to get some things for, and at this point, Julius just kind of stands up, moves Otheldyre aside, and says, yes, I think I can help you with that. Let's see if we can find the items you need for your, and he turns to Dyer, and he's like, current Inquisitor, and we'll get you on your way. Does that sound good?
Thank you.
And he just smiles and starts tapping on his knee, and he just says, everything in its proper place. Come with me. And Morgan, from your perch, you see Eli and this strange man begin to make their way kind of through the aisles. The challenge here is because the item is mislabeled. The timing is going to be a bit funky here, but the time has come for you to make this impressive swap. So you still need to find this carapace, and you need to swap the tags. How do you want to try and find the carapace?
And if there was any way while she was down there of like understanding any of this filing system or understanding any of that kind of stuff to try and look for it, it's while avoiding the servitors and everything else. It's just thought it would be more well organized down here, but gonna do the best we can.
Never read the book. Yeah, I take perception.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
All right.
Difficulty of 4. Holy shit, there's a lot of paper down here.
There is a lot of paper. Down
That
here.
said, I will give you a boost because you're looking for Tyranid carapace, which is not small.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also regularly shaped, so even if it's wrapped, yeah, you'll be able to find it. It's the toy you know you're getting at Christmas.
Yeah.
Hoping
that there's a box that we can stick it in, so it's not so obvious what it is. But
there's lots of boxes down here. I'm going to give you a setback for speed. You're trying to do this very quickly. I'll give you another boost for all of your stealth shit.
All right. And then I'm gonna eat back the story point we got back. Yay!
1 and 4. 1 and 4.
1 and 4. All right, we're doing the best we can down here. This plan is going sideways, but not her fault. Inquisition just files shitty. All right, here we go. 2 successes, 2 advantages. It was close, but we got it.
Okay, great. You're quickly looking through. There's not a whole lot of rhyme or reason, but much like a good library, you are able to determine where the Ordo Hereticus section is, and that narrows the search quite a bit. So
cool.
You managed to find a large chunk of the armor, or of the carapace rather. It's kind of held in like a rack of oddities. There are other sort of, like cursed daggers and things, just sort of a mishmash of vaguely heretical things. You can kind of hear like the gentle grumbling of Eli not far away, as he and Julius make their way through. Othel Dyer kind of following in their wake, mumbling about like, why aren't you calling him Inquisitor? So you quickly grab this kind of large, heavy shell piece. You can see that there is a note attached to it, kind of like in a little baggie that's been kind of like nailed into the side of it. But perhaps more alarmingly, you see the mark of Nurgle has been carved into it and painted, which unfortunately evokes for you some memories, because the chaos signs being carved into things is not exactly a
Not
great
my
vibe.
fun time, yeah.
Yeah, vibe for you. But these are matters to consider later, because you can hear the footsteps approaching. You can hear the sound of voices. Do you leave the note or do you pocket the note?
Is the note an extra note? Because part of her plan was definitely to leave if there was a categorization system, to put that on something else. So if someone came down here looking for that.
So there are labels that
Okay,
you can shift. This is more like, this is an additional piece of evidence that we have.
Right. So just, she cares about the label, she'll leave the note on the thing and put it in a box, and then we'll be swapping the labels. It's not her business, basically.
Fair enough. So you do a quick swap of labels, and Eli, the piece and order of this weird archive is ruined for you as an electronic hawk just like screams at you.
Ah!
What? That I understood. Inquisitor, your hawk is very mad. And again, just like one stormtrooper, and at this point, like everyone but Oathful Dyer is on side with this. And Eli, you arrive at a box marked for an Inquisitor Canehurst, holding something that sends a bit of a chill through you, as you just knowing that there's tyrannid anything near you is not a great feeling. And nearby you can hear some muttering and kind of pounding on a box. And Oathful Dyer just points and says, I mean, we're right here. Are you sure you don't want to take it? Eli, the Accidental Inquisitor, what do you do to this grot?
Look, is there anything special about this grot?
We're saving him for you, Inquisitor Andronicus.
You
so
know
you can
what?
study it, learn its secrets, find out more about the Greenskin Horde. We're told he's a warlord.
Eli, is it like, can I see it at all? Or
Yeah,
is
it's just
it
like it's a little like cage with
Okay.
with just a horrendously malnourished wretched inside.
Eli bends down, looks into the cage, and just says, "Hey, you! Why are you so special?"
And the Gretchen just like looks at you and says, I'm the Emperor?
Well, and then Eli just looks to just to everyone, everyone around, and said, "Well, that's heresy if I've ever heard anything. So I say we just do away with this one."
And the gunslinger just like passes you a pistol.
Yep, there we go. Shoots him.
I mean, look, you might not be an official Inquisitor, but you do get the job done.
Yep.
Which, Morgan, is exactly what you're thinking as the faithful stormtroopers pick up the box, travel with Eli back up the lift, and you manage to stealthily slide back out, having swapped some labels. I would make you roll another stealth check, but you rolled so well earlier that, like, I think we're probably good.
I think if anything, she would, go back out the way she came in.
Mhm.
And then as soon as she got to a room that was okay to walk around in, she would walk around. So I think if anything bad happens, it's that she takes a long time to get back because she's just kind of going the long way through channels that you're supposed to walk. So if anything, it might be a little sus, but like for Valentyne, but she'll eventually make her way back out.
So, Valentyne, you're surprised to find Eli Sharpe arriving with a box, and no Morgan Rhalls. Eli, you've got the package. You arrive aboard Marnie's Song. Valentyne, how do you greet Eli?
Welcome back. Excellent work. Now, we need to get this gift you're bringing me somewhere relatively safe so we can review its contents and make sure it's what it should be. Let's go speak with our new friend Gideon Kotov, if he is in his little Mechanicus bay. I'd love to have some sort of stasis field or limiting factor around this before we open it up.
Right.
How do things go?
Well, let's see. The administrator who showed me around is convinced that I'm some Lord Inquisitor Andronicus. Or Donicus, I don't know. Someone. I insisted I wasn't. Very level. Everyone else who accompanied me knew exactly what I was doing. Apparently, there were some Gretchen down there that the Andronicus want.
Oh,
hey,
excellent. So you're getting an additional Xeno sample. That's tremendously useful.
No, I killed it.
This episode of the Valentyne Heresy features Ryan LaPlante at the Ryan LaPlante on Twitter as Inquisitor Lucius Valentyne, Tyler Hewitt at Tyler_Hewitt on Twitter as Attikus Vis, Laura Hamstra at EL Hamstring on Twitter as Eli Sharpe, Del Borovic at Deltastic on Twitter as Morgan Rhalls, and our Game Master Tom McGee at McGeeTD on Twitter. This episode was edited and mixed by Laura Hamstra, and the Valentyne Heresy's artwork was created by Del Borovic at delborovic.com, DELBOROVIC. Our theme song is The Hordes by Megan McDuffie, and our ads use the tracks No Control and Chiefs by Jazzar, JAHZZAR, available at freemusicarchive.org. When it comes to Dum-Dums and Dice, you can visit our website at dumdumdice.com. Our Twitter and Instagram are at dumdumdice, and on Facebook at facebook.com/dumdumdice. We have merchandise available at redbubble.com/people/dumdumdice, and most importantly, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/dumdumdice. That's DUMBDICE. Ave Imperator, and death to all the heretics.
Dum-Dums and Dice has to give a special thank you to the supreme beings of our Patreon at this time. The Half-Blind Prophet, Christopher Little, Sue One, George Dolby, Richard Cranium, Sammy Boy, Orion Birchfield, Scott Garland, Benjamin V, Gavin and Abby McDonald, Logan, Fire Unfriendly, Acrix, Grandma Likes D&D, Alan, Austin Nut Powers Fry, Stabby Stranger, Glitch Trick, Roman Brown, Shulzari, Christian Mendez, Spot Allen, Flynn1138, Alarain Okapi, OMG It's Big Nick, Steve Wees, D&D and Things, and Jill and Noel LaPlante. If you want your name to be added to this list, you can join our Patreon too at patreon.com/dumdumdice. Thanks to them, and a little bit of thanks to you.